Well, it's now confirmed that the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has landed in KwaZulu-Natal, where he will deliver the closing remarks at the party's conference, and as it comes to a close, wrapping it up altogether at the end of that conference that has been taking place in the last few days. The top 5 leadership, of course, have already been announced, and the outcome may have been a hard pill to swallow for some. Lukhona Mnguni hosts On the Spot here on eNCA and joins me now to help us make sense of it all. Lukhona, thank you for coming through. Let's start with the president of the ANC. That initial doubt that he was going to be there, initially, I mean, you heard the new provincial chairperson was also not sure whether it was happening or not. We now know that he's going to actually attend and deliver the closing remarks there. What do you make of that initial confusion? I mean, he's in the country, able to go and deliver the closing address. It's crucial. This is their biggest provincial structure. Why would there be any doubt about it?
Well, he might be able, I'm not sure, willing.
Yes.
You mean you saw what happened when Paul Mashatile was trying to open conference on Friday. There was a bit of, sing-off, heckling type of thing. And I think there may have been some political considerations made, and that's what created doubt in the morning. But as you say, it's important that as the leader of the ANC, he does not accept a sense of having a no-go area in the structures of the African National Congress. But this is not for the first time. I mean, presidents have been booed before in KwaZulu-Natal. You'll remember Thabo Mbeki as well, former President Thabo Mbeki at some point, I think it was the reburial of Moses Mabhida in Durban, and there was a lot of heckling. It took, I think, now former President as well, Kgalema Motlanthe, to stand up and intervene, people like, Sbu Ndebele to intervene. You always want to make sure that you protect the image of the president. It doesn't send a good message when a president is treated with a degree of hostility and with a lot of political indifference that people create around the president.
But is he likely, though, to be treated with hostility? And I ask this because I saw someone making the point that we tend to, read national politics all the time when sometimes the dynamics are actually very provincial. And I know that, in the minds of many, you can't uncouple the two, national and provincial dynamics. But is this conference really about national issues, or was it about dealing with the issue of Sihle Zikalala and his leadership cohort, as we saw the hostility that he received?
Well, there's no doubt that the two are quite intertwined. Tulas, you know that it's policy conference next week of the ANC nationally, and that has implications, right? The delegates who are there in that conference this weekend will probably form part of the policy conference delegates, and they will go there already carrying some mandate. Funny story is that we always look for signals, right? Even at the policy conference, this, who's in which room, which commission is deliberating robustly, or who's differing with who, because that sort of almost sets the tone for the national conference. You'll remember it was the policy conference where Gwede Mantashe delivered that diagnostic report, which really defined that he's no longer in support of former President Jacob Zuma, and we knew where he was casting, his support towards. So this is an important one, even for the national question. Remember, these delegates are getting together also for the first time in a very, very long time because of COVID-19 and so on. So there's no doubt that there will be discussions about the posture of the province and how it goes towards the national conference. They have already said, I mean, the former secretary now, Mtumiseni Ntuli, made it very clear in one press briefing that as KZN, they are going to try and reaffirm their support, I suppose, but also they're going to reaffirm their authority as a province within the ANC, because for the first time they don't have someone from KwaZulu-Natal in the top 6 of the ANC, and they say they will correct this, and all slates agree on that. So yes, there will be national issues, and Tulas, the biggest issue here is going to be former President Zuma, and President Ramaphosa is seen as a foe.
I was going to ask you that, because this issue is just there. You know, the shadow of former President Jacob Zuma is just there. Even he the Jacob Zuma Foundation tweeted about it to say, you know, in a way that's sort of a bit of a stirrer to say, we see you, we see what's going on, and we appreciate what you are doing to support us. And even the previous Provincial Executive Committee, in the last few days, last few weeks, last few months, the tone had come to a standard line that says, perhaps things could have been handled better around former President Jacob Zuma. This is around the whole issue of, you know, withdrawing that political support that had initially been pledged to say, as you go through your legal troubles, we are there with you. What does the election of Siboniso Duma mean then for that? What should he read, he and his leadership, what should they read as the mandate from the branches to say they feel strongly about this issue, you should do something about it?
Well, in fact, both Siboniso Duma, the chairperson, and the provincial secretary, Bheki Mtolo, I've heard them in various parts reaffirming that they will support former President Zuma. They will not abandon him. And in actual fact, Mtolo was even saying they will set up a machinery led by the ANC to support former President Zuma. Now, this is what happened in the former leadership. So when they withdrew that political support, they then realized that it was creating a vacuum, and that these rallies that are post the court appearances of former President Zuma are actually utilized to communicate certain things about, you know, the upcoming conference, which is this one. If you remember well, Tulas, there's actually one day former President Zuma called for calm and no division, and they were booing Sihle Zikalala in one platform. And former President Zuma said it very clearly. He said, we will be united here. Everything else we will go and sort it out at conference. And here are the results. People have been sorted out at conference. And I do think that the dilly-dallying effect of Sihle Zikalala's leadership on the Zuma issue did pave way for them to be dismissed, even if you may argue that Siboniso Duma is not necessarily a cause, former President Zuma backer and so on, but that moment was used as a way of filling up the vacuum they had left.
What does his election mean for the continuity within government? You and I know. Look, he says there'll be no purge, right? But we've seen this in other provinces where the initial magnanimity says, you know, oh no, we'll work together, we'll be fine. The Premier will continue, I will continue to serve at the provincial headquarters, or if I'm to be accommodated, that's the prerogative of the Premier, to accommodate me in his government and sort of rope me in. There'll be no change, things will continue, and from time to time you then start hearing people saying that actually, talking to the NEC to say we would like to get a new Premier even before 2024 is very far.
No, too far. Christmas is also very far to us. I don't think that Sihle Zikalala is going to be Premier any longer than probably the next 2 months, just handling a transition of sorts. And part of that is because he has lost confidence of some of the people in KwaZulu-Natal, just as the Premier now, not even as an ANC person. He is not seen as providing the kind of leadership that the province requires, but also I don't think that he's the person who will help the ANC regain lost ground. It has been losing ground under his leadership. In 2019, in the 2021 local government elections in KwaZulu-Natal, the ANC was below 50%. So this is why you see, you know, the DA in the province of KwaZulu-Natal coming out to say it congratulates the future opposition leader in Siboniso Duma. So there will have to be serious considerations. One, how do you ensure internal party consolidation? Secondly, how do you recover the image of the government so that the ANC could have a fighting chance in 2024?
You take me to my last point that I want to raise with you, Lukhona. You mentioned that the DA congratulates the person they consider as the next opposition leader in KwaZulu-Natal. He has his work cut out for him, doesn't he, Siboniso Duma, because he's likely to be the face of the campaign come 2024. But at the same time, does the fact that he was elected by such a wide margin at the conference, how much does the conference reflect what's happening in the branches of the ANC? Because my reading of it is that the problem that the ANC has in KwaZulu-Natal and in a number of other areas, it's just really a matter of energizing your base. to just say the people that used to be so energetic in those rallies, and they would, without needing any prompting and prodding, would come out in their numbers and stand in queues for as long as it takes to cast their ballots, such that they were able to swing the province of KwaZulu-Natal from the IFP to the ANC and dominate for a period of time. That base has simply not been enthused and has simply not been energized in the last few election cycles. Does the fact that he energized the delegates at the conference mean that he's the man to energize the base and come 2024?
It's going to be quite interesting. His political clout is also going to be tested, because remember, he's not been in the eyes of the public since probably he was deputy chairperson of the ANC Youth League in the province, and Begim Tolo at the time already was also provincial secretary of the Youth League. This is the 2010 leadership. That's why I say the emergence of a very youthful leadership that can energize young people. And you know that in KwaZulu-Natal the EFF is growing in leaps and bounds, particularly in the urban nodes. But I think, Tulas, we need to go back a bit in history. The ANC is not dominant in KwaZulu-Natal historically. It took them from 1994 until 2009 for them to win a majority in the legislature of KwaZulu-Natal. So what you are actually seeing is, whilst the ANC is retreating from its position as leader, the IFP is making gains and amends with its former constituencies. So I don't think you can look at just what the ANC needs to do. Yeah. You also have to ask, what is the IFP doing right?
Read them
if you saw the municipalities in Richards Bay that the ANC lost and to the IFP and other coalition partners. So there's a lot of political fluidity generally in KwaZulu-Natal. People are quick to vote differently. Yes. So the issue that the ANC is confronted with is not only its supporters deciding not to turn out and support the ANC, they actually decide to vote differently. And some of the research that I do in the province shows people are quite active in terms of, wanting to vote. They are registered voters, but also they are quite happy to change their minds and vote differently. And I think what happens to the ANC, both at a national level and in the province, is going to be very determinative.
That's interesting, Lukhona, and I'm almost out of time. In fact, completely out of time. That's very interesting, because what I put to you is the reading of the ANC that says, it's our people. And, in fact, I think one of the speakers was Sihle Zikalala, it was Sihle Zikalala, I think, who said that, in a way, it's not so bad, the fact that, our base is not voting for someone else. It concerns us that they're not coming out to vote for us. So you are saying that actually it's both. It's both their base sitting at home and saying, I'm not enthused, I'm not coming to vote, as well as some of the people that voted for them saying, actually, I'm so fed up, I'll vote differently.
Absolutely, Tulas. And those are the dynamics. And if you see how power has changed hands in KwaZulu-Natal, 2011, NFP split from the IFP, hung almost 21 municipalities in the province. There were coalition governments in those municipalities. NFP vanished, but people still continued to vote. IFP reconsolidated some areas, ANC consolidated in some areas. So there's great fluidity in KwaZulu-Natal, and I think it's the untold success story of democracy by the people of KwaZulu-Natal, and how they exemplify that in a democracy you must be willing to vote differently and not be married to say, I'll only vote for this party until I die, and if I'm unhappy with this party, then I will just simply sit at home. And I'm suggesting that, unlike the urban metros here in Gauteng, where there is great evidence that ANC supporters really do sit at home, in KwaZulu-Natal there is a bit of people also changing allegiance. I mean, look at Mavundla, his deputy mayor in eThekwini. He's a former ANC mayor in Greytown, right? Yeah. So that's the kind of fluidity that exists in the province. And I think the ANC has its work cut out in the province, and they would be short-sighted to only focus on how they energize their own voters, rather than also looking at the landscape and what other political parties are doing and what accounts for their growth.
I have so many issues that I would want to pose with you, Lukhona, but I'm afraid that our directors and producers might just be screaming in my ear.
I'm glad I'm not sitting where you are.
Lukhona Mnguni is host of On the Spot here on eNCA. You can catch him every Sunday at midday. All right, I'll be back with more for you. We will take you back to that memorial service for the late Don Matera. Stay with us. This is eNCA, and you're watching Today.